So, hello guys, welcome to another BDS video. Today, as you might have seen, we are working on something different. So, what we have in here, it's a car that many know. It's the car that belonged to the guys at Camber and Combustion. This one is Matthew car, and it's a car we have done some work on the past. We never documented anything, but we are doing a bit more to it, and I thought it would be nice to share. So, I have in here some of the dyno results of the car when it has come, when it has arrived, the power it's doing now. So there's more power to be had of the engine, which I know it's there, and I'm trying to get that power out of it without, of course, changing anything of what it has already on it. Like just improving components. What I mean changing nothing on it is not change the cams, not change bottom end, nothing. Just gain power through changing other stuff on the car that is not internally related. So this car has previously been tuned elsewhere, and then it came to me, was already tuned, and then we decided to have our approach on it, and then we still found some decent power, but I'm still not where I want to be with it, so it's something I want to explore further to get onto. So stay tuned for this video. There's a lot going on. Probably it's going to be split in two, and I will explain through, show you dyno graphs and everything. So now I'm going to be showing you guys the printouts of when the car first came and what we have done so far. So stay tuned for the video. So guys, we've finished our testing. It has been quite a long day. There was some hours on the intake manifold. If you ask me if I'm fully happy with it, not yet. I think there's more to come out of it. we'll need a little bit more modification, but still we are making more power. So I'm going to show you guys what exactly we are making now. I'm going to share the screen on the laptop, which makes it easier, and talk you guys through what has happened. Hi guys, so welcome to the continuation of the analyzing the Dyno printouts. So I'm going to start again on where we started and where we are, and show you as well what the car has in concrete. So I'm going to say first what the car has, and I'm going to open the thing as it arrived. So this is when it has arrived, so 181 VHP on arrival. This is the first time I dyno the car, which was on early August. We've done the first dyno. We only worked on it around a month later. So this is what it had. Also, like, I changed the software, as you can see. This now has the negative curve, so the losses, they are in here. So I will talk at the wheels, but then with this new software I can more reliably talk about the flywheel power, because there's a far more clean read of the losses. So it has a better calculator for the power losses. So I'm going to open them like this, because we can see power at the wheels and power at the fly, and then we have the losses in here. So this is as it arrived. The car has these cams in, so just a moment. These ones, so the cat cams 106. So this is the specs of the cam. This is what I always look into on a cam, the duration at 1 mil. So it gives me a clear idea of how much RPM it will do. So I don't look at cam duration the way most people do. I look at cam duration directly related with the RPM operating range, which is the correct way to look at it, regardless of how much I have flow. So yeah. Now let's go back to this. So this is the cam. It's quite a large cam, to be honest, for its proper fast road. It's a decent size, and the car made 181 bhp. I found it was a bit low, to be honest, very low, especially for a camshaft with that duration, knowing how much the head flows and the valve sizes the head has. Like, to me, seemed a bit low, and the torque curve was not really there when it should. Then the torque was also not there when it really should, due to the intake length. They have an intake that is amazing for torque production, but then there's no power intake, nothing. Other thing I've noticed when the car first came was the intake temps were getting quite high, and like we ended up with massive power differences when it really started getting hot. We ended up at the end, the car was only making like 170 bhp at the fly, which was like 130 something at the wheels, which in here it's like 144. It ended up at 130 something at the wheels. So yeah. Now the intake gets really hot, firstly because the plenum is very close to the intake manifold, but there's also other reason for it that I'm going to talk through. The other thing was getting hot. The oil temperatures were getting extremely hot as well, and like it was getting a bit hotter than what you should see. The car also had a Scorpion exhaust, and it had a cold air intake that Matt has made. That worked quite well, to be honest. We just changed it now for the last thing we do because it showed its weaknesses. And then the ECU has a chip of some sort. So after analyzing what was on the car, like we've done some small amount of work on the intake manifold. We opened the intake manifold. We didn't cut the stacks like some people do on these cars at all. We like a long intake manifold. It helps on having a very nice torque curve. For the cam, the intake might be a bit too long, but that's something I might address in the future. But I like the shape of the stacks. So we worked on the entrances of the stacks, and then we cleaned some other areas inside the plenum itself, and we have changed the plenum. So we've done those two changes. So we worked on the intake manifold and the plenum, and then we changed the exhaust with a full exhaust. We had, of course, to readjust fueling, so that has to be adjusted as well. And then this was what car made after that. So we went up by quite a decent amount of power, and it just gained everywhere. So you can see, like, this is the power at flywheel, went from 181 to 197. This is a very healthy gain, considering we just changed the exhaust and did a modification on the intake manifold. We have gained this, of course, after adjusting the fueling to make it right. Now, one other thing that is important to mention is the intake temperatures have dropped considerably. Not only the intake temps, the oil temp also dropped, and now I'm going to explain why. So we were having quite a large amount of back pressure on the exhaust, and this is why there was the power was nowhere near what it should be. So what happens when you have excessive pressure on the exhaust? So the air has nowhere to go. So when the valve opens, it cannot fully empty the cylinder. So other thing is important to see, to understand better what I'm talking about. You see, camshaft always has, well, they normally do say lift at TDC. So there's a point where the piston is atop that center, that both valves are opened. And when this is open, if you have a lot of exhaust pressure, the car is going to do like an EGR, which is the exhaust gas actually goes back into the intake. So now if you see the things properly, you're not only not cleaning the chamber and pulling everything out of the cylinder, emptying it properly, you also putting dirty air on the intake. So that also causes the intake to go really hot, and you saw that. One of the things we've noticed is the car like has far more consistency through the dyno pulls. Now at the moment, as it is, we have no changes in power, or we have changes but are far more minimal than the ones we had before. You know, we can dyno the car 10 times and it's going to be 3 bhp maximum of difference, while before it dropped as much as 10 bhp, and it's only because it was getting really, really hot. Now, after doing this, like we've done more testing, and like the Matt was very happy at the time, like with the cars it was quite a big improvement. And then the main aim is to make the 306 have a closer pace to the Clio and the MG, which when it first came it didn't have pace, like he couldn't keep up with them on the straights, you know, like Matt is an extremely capable driver, but on the straights it's all about the power. There was nothing he could do. We have dynoed the 3 cars on our dyno, and we have the power of all of them. Like the Clio is 180 bhp as well, but it's close to 200 kilos lighter compared to the 306. And then the MG is 195 bhp, but it's the same weight as the 306, so they are very similar. Now, after doing this, I went back to the drawing board and started studying, because I was like, I was talking to a good friend of mine, the person that designs our cams, and I told him what profile the car had, and he said to me, "No, Bruno, there's still more power to get out of it." And I was like, "Really? Okay." So I started looking for it, for everything in more detail. So I started doing analysis in pressure differentials and stuff like that to get my conclusions and see where the power was. So I decided it was a good idea to port the throttle body. I mean, I didn't change the throttle diameter itself. The stock throttle body just ported. The standard 306 throttle body has some very large steps on both sides of it, so on the entry and on the outlet of the butterfly, and then I'll show you the difference that on its own has made. So we went from this, I'm going to leave this, then ported throttle, and here we go. So this is the difference. The line is not quite as smooth, but doesn't matter. It just shows the difference, and we gained a fair amount of power everywhere again. I'm going to take some of the curves out. Now, one thing you're going to see is we got, like, the power at wheels is very similar, and it's like, so where's the gain? Now you look at the curve at wheels, and it's like, it's a big difference. You know, there's far more loss, because in here the car came and it already had the semi-slick ons. So let me just see if I can make this smoother. Yeah, so now, yeah, so it's 202.4. It's now the line, it's smoother. It actually came down a little bit, but it's cleaner. You see, this is why I like this new software. As I said, like, it was just a spike and it was showing the wrong figure in there. So yeah, so I ported the throttle body. Let's look at the torque curve, because it's already calculated, and you can see we gained power in here. Like, the power at wheels now, we shouldn't really look at them because it's on different tires, and again you can see in here there's quite a difference on the power. Like, there's a loss of 12 bhp more on the semi-slick tires. It's something that I've seen before, I tested. So yeah, so going back to it, we can put the things like this so most people can understand it better. In the UK, most of us in Europe, most of us look at things at the flywheel, so we look at power at the flywheel as well. I like to guide myself at wheels, but some people like to see it this way, so I'll put it this way. We got now, we went from 197 to 202, which is quite a decent difference, and we have seen gains everywhere from 3,500 all the way up to the high RPM. But I've done some other testing as this was done, and it wasn't still where I wanted it to be, so I knew there was more to do to it. So what I decided to do, I decided to make this intake manifold modification, which I changed the throttle body to a bigger one, and I also had to do a different cold air. So why did I have to do different cold air? Because the cold air then started showing restriction. Bear in mind, on the ported throttle body we have tried different cold airs and nothing worked. Generally nothing worked better than the one Matt had on the car at the time. I always do that, try to get the most out of it, as with what I have. So there was no need. But then I've noticed like the pressure differential, I wasn't happy with what I was seeing still. Like it was something that was not making sense because I had a bigger throttle body and I still had almost the same pressure drop. So I had to address it. So we had to fabricate a cold air for it. And this is the result we had today, which is this one. And this is the power we made. We now can compare purely at wheels because now they are on the same tire. As you can see, it's a very small difference from one to the other. But this is it. So we have again all across this area comes up, and then in here really starts to trail off. Then in here makes the biggest difference of 12 bhp at this point at the wheels, and then it starts coming down and then comes down and goes even lower than what it was. Okay, this is an indication to me that the air is becoming sonic. So what is it? It's the speed of the air. It gets so high it cannot go anymore, so it just plunges, stops, and what we're going to see is the power curve will straighten up completely if we look at the fly. And it does that. Not only does that, it actually loses a little bit. So we know there's another problem in here. So if you can imagine, when I fix this problem, which I have an idea on what to do, this is why I want to do another operation to the intake manifold. It just, if you can imagine this curve keeping on going at the same pace, even if it stays at just like 10 bhp higher, in here, instead of having 200 bhp, we will have 210. And so this is what I think. So 210, I mean like is it, am I reading? Yeah, we have 210 in here, so the line will have just keep up with this one all the way up to here. So 210 in here, so it's a little bit more. The line will just become straight. This is a bit complicated to explain some of these things. I'm genuinely, like, in my mind I'm seeing everything, but sometimes to pass the message is hard. But this is what it is. So there is more from it, and now I'm going to tell you guys why it's so important for me just to look at things this way. Just a moment, I need to do this. Boom, done. So I look at things like this, torque curve. Okay, so why do I look at torque curve? Now I'm seeing what cams the engine have, okay, and I know a camshaft has an operating range, and this torque curve from 6-7 onwards, it falls too quickly for the camshaft duration. So a camshaft with this duration should never fall this quickly at the top end. So the line should keep coming, should come down, but not at this rate. So in here we should have, instead of having the line in here, it should be around here. So we should have 148 foot-pounds, but at 7.5 instead of 137. So the line should come straighter. And now I know, based on this, we still have another restriction. Now it can be two things. So you know the engine work with pulses, so which means we have a certain pulse like we're going to use to boost a certain RPM, and there's always a right RPM range for certain intake length, and these cams are a bit too aggressive for the current intake length. So this is the thing, like everything, as I mentioned many times, are built to work in harmony. So we cannot, with this intake length, we cannot take the full benefit of the current camshaft setup. So we cannot make as much power as we could. Now you think, oh, you could just put ITVs and it would fix the problem. Yes and no. Like you generally, the reason why I'm doing things this way is I just want to show to people, like, you can make as much power as an ITV with an intake manifold. On this one, I'm almost on the stage that I might just do an intake manifold for it and just have a manifold making the power I wanted to make. But I really would like to see the stock intake manifold also making the power it can produce. Intake manifold has a nice design. The runners are really nicely made. It's really good finishing inside, apart from the plenum itself. So it can be of good use. So this is why I'm choosing to stay with it for now. But yeah, so there's more power to be made. We're making decent power now, as you guys can see. So, and then just from here, I just want to address this. And I'm pretty sure, like, we can make a torque curve even better. But now, the most important thing in here is, like, as it arrived and as it is now, it's a big difference. And no parts were changed. The only part that was changed actually was just the exhaust. All the rest was just improved for the components the car has. As I mentioned many times, everything has to work in harmony to make the most you can out of it. So you have to spend enough time finding what works the best for you. And like, this is just with my experience and all the tests that I've been doing in the past. I find to me now easier to select a certain thing to work with that, and I can easily see if there's hidden power or if it's not hidden power or what's to be there. You know, I can always chase a problem if there is one. But to me, like, achieving the 209 bhp was quite a good thing, even though, like, it's not amazing, it's not like wow, it's nothing crazy, but we still on the stock intake manifold, an open engine, just with bolt-on cams and an exhaust. So probably also with a better ECU we would correct a bit of this, because we had the last time, not this time actually, was not checking the fueling as I should. This might be a fueling problem because we're having I think the fuel pump is falling out of favor now. So probably this might be lack of fuel. You know, I have to look at it properly, see the pressure on the rail, how it's staying on, which I didn't do, and I should. So this might be caused for that. But anyway, this is the findings we had with the car. I hope you enjoy this. There's a lot more I should be doing on this engine soon. We already developed a head for it, but first we want to take the most as we can out of the stock head with the cams it has fitted. I would like to see 215 bhp on the car. I think it would be quite a good number to have on the stock manifold, of course heavily modified, but still using the stock manifold. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed it. Once again, thank you for your time, and thank you for your patience on listening to all of this. Bye bye.